Which has most influence, organizations on their host communities or communities on their organizations? Research by INSEAD professor Henrich Greve may surprise you. Henrich, welcome to INSEAD Knowledge.
Thank you so much.
Henrich, your paper, which is titled Organizational Foundings as Sources of an Institutional Legacy of Mutualism, concludes that it's organizations that actually imprint communities, not the other way around, as conventional research goes. How did you come to this conclusion?
So we looked at the effect of having organizations, especially mutual organizations, being founded in a community early on. What made us interested in it is that communities vary a lot in the level of civic activity. Voluntary associations, music, culture, other types of helping organizations, for example. And this is something that matters quite a bit to people, and as a result it also matters to companies who are considering where to locate, because people are obviously attracted by good communities, so it's easier to hire if you're in such a place. Now, so then the question was, why is that so? And those differences between communities are really very long-lasting. And we thought it would be possible to link it to the type of organizations that you can find in a community early on. And what we found was, in fact, the experience of being early communities in creating mutual organizations imprinted communities with that type of mutualism, so that there were more organizations later on. And it was really just creating them early on. So it almost didn't matter if they continued to live, if they endured. There wasn't much change over time, just the act of the community coming together was the key threshold that would lead some communities to become more civic-oriented than others.
Does this collective action mentality only result from non-profit organizations, or can for-profit organizations also have the ability to imprint communities?
So in terms of how for-profit organizations can think about imprinting, there's really one big picture view and one small picture view. The big picture view is the one that people already know even without thinking about imprinting. If you look at a place like Silicon Valley, it's really an engine for creating companies. Now, it's actually the same thing, the same imprinting phenomenon that we've looked at, except that Silicon Valley has been imprinted with the ability to create technology ventures with new technologies. It has those skills as a result of it being a pioneer in doing that. And that's an important lesson. So, for-profit organizations can actually, if there are enough of them, they can create these growth engines of their own type. So that results in more for-profit organizations. It doesn't necessarily improve civic life directly. But there is a small picture part of it also, which is how for-profit organizations link to their communities. There's something very interesting going on in the US now, where McDonald's franchises, or some of them, they do various things for the community. They support the local library, they have collections of toys for the poor during Christmas, and so on, various activities like that. Now, this is not done by McDonald's Corporation. This is done by certain franchise holders, typically young ones who are children of franchise holders. So what they have in common is that they understand McDonald's Corporation deeply, but they think about the business model differently than their parents, because they are trying to add a civic link, and they think that will improve the business model. And often it's quite successful, both for the community and for their franchises.
What are some of the best practices that firms should consider when trying to imprint a community? How can they effectively rally communities to their cause? And is imprinting even a conscious thing?
It's not a conscious thing. It happens in a very dispersed way in the community. It's not primarily something that benefits the company either, it benefits the community. But to the extent that it's something that companies want to think about and perhaps also use as a way to strengthen the bond of trust or the emotion for the company in the local community, there are things that they can do. Now, mostly that has to do with content. What the McDonald's franchisees were doing was actually different. When they were doing community relations, it had nothing to do with the product or what they served. It just had to do with, we want to do this for the community because we happen to have a place where it's convenient to deposit toys, or where we can have a little rally for the library or anything like that. And so they found a way to be useful and at the same time buffer themselves a little bit.
How can companies work with or create activists to their cause? What is the best way perhaps to nurture influencers?
Community activists will often make requests of companies. They will want to use the resources or even just seek compliance to the principles that they have. Do you want to operate in such a way? Again, it's the don't be evil requirement. Companies have a choice in how to face that, where it's often useful, particularly useful, to be attentive to those activists who are in the local community specifically, because they are the ones who spread the word of mouth to the ones who might be your employees or your friends of your employees and so on. So that's sort of the root of the company, or at least of that local plant or establishment.
Henrich, thanks for joining me on INSEAD Knowledge.
Thank you so much for inviting.